3, 2, 1. Hold up. It says reconnect. Now, good.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وأصحابه وسلم تسليما كثيرا وبعد. Today, inshallah tabaraka wa ta'ala, we ask Allah for His guidance, His mercy, and that He make us, inshallah, by His will, in accordance and in compliance with that which He loves and that which He is pleased with. Ameen. Today we want to take a little detour. I had planned to talk about the issue of whether or not music and singing is okay in Islam or not. In Arabic they call it musiqa, meaning music, or aghani, singing. Is this okay in the religion of Islam or not? And we want to bring both sides, those who say that it's okay and those that say that it's not. And we also wanted to take a few benefits from the classical work, Usul al-Thalatha, which is in line with what you practice, what you learn. This is the object of discussion, practicing what you know and staying away from what you have been told to stay away from in order to become a good person, a good Muslim. And we started talking about this in the session last night, where Allah mentioned in the 5th surah of the Quran, the chapter of the table spread, Ma'idah, where Allah the Mighty, the Sublime, He mentioned, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu awfu bil uqud. All you who believe, honor your transactions, honor your agreements, fulfill your responsibilities, fulfill your oath. And we mentioned that many of the classical works that involve what the Prophet said about this, he is the messenger, he delivers the message about the Quran. His companions, that they learned it from him, and Allah told us to follow the understanding that they have, because they can tell you the deeper meaning behind what the Prophet said, and that's their job. We mentioned that they mentioned all types of agreements, from marital agreements to business transactions to the agreements between peace treaties when you fight, the agreement between a person when he borrows and the one who loans, and of course the agreement that the human being has between them and the Creator to worship Him, to obey Him, not to disobey Him. And if they find themselves falling short in that, then they quickly return back to obedience. So this is in line with the topic tonight, similar continuation of that concept. We want to begin by mentioning the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, which is collected in Bukhari and Muslim, as the platform to talk about the issue of the music and the song. That is, the hadith is also in not only in Al-Bukhari, which one of the famous scholars of Bukhara, place that is in the on the continent of what we understand today, Turkey, and the likes of that area. Also, the great collection of Imam Muslim. These are names of great scholars that collected. They used their time as youth, and they grew into adult age, learning, memorizing, writing, teaching the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They are the two best books after the Quran, the most authentic on the face of the earth. The collection of Imam al-Bukhari, his Sahih, that which he made sure was verified and that it was linked back to the Prophet, as we have that science in the religion of Islam, where you can trace, once you learn the science, the statements, the actions, the approvals back to the Prophet to know if he said it, did it, or approved it or not. Also, Imam Muslim, his contemporary, the second best book, strongest, most reliable book after the Quran. This hadith that we're about to mention is in their collection, along with the collection of the 40 hadith of Imam al-Nawawi. Imam al-Nawawi, his 40 hadith number 9. And Abi Hurairata Abdurrahman ibn Sakhr radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. His name is Abu Hurairah, the one who used to walk around with the small kittens inside of his sleeve, carrying them, taking care of them. So he gained the nickname Abu Hurairah. Wa ismuhu Abdurrahman. And he has many names, but the most popular from amongst them is Abdurrahman, the servant of the most merciful. Ibn Sakhr. And then he is from the people of Adosi, from the southern province of Yemen, which Yemen is very famous today in the news because of the war and the sicknesses and the casualties from that war. Abu Hurairah, he said, أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول, that the Prophet, he stated, ما نهيتم عنه فاجتنبوه وما أمرتم به فأتوا منه ما استطعتم وإن أهلك من كان قبلكم لكثر مسائل واختلاف على أنبيائهم أو كما قال. The first part of the hadith we will take the translation and we will give explanation from the people of knowledge. Prophet Sallam, he said, ما نهيتكم عن, whatever I told you to avoid, فَجِتَنِبُوهُ, then I expect you to avoid it. So you have the first part of the hadith, مَا نَهَيْتُكُمْ عَنْهُ. Nahay means to tell someone, stay away from something. Nahay means to prevent a person, to stop them from something. So here from Salam, he said, مَا نَهَيْتُكُمْ عَنْهُ, whatever I've told you of, meaning the Muslims that were there in front of him during his time, and everyone that these narrations reach, it's applicable. مَا نَهَيْتُكُمْ عَنْهُ, whatever I told you about to avoid, guess what? فَجِتَنِبُوهُ, then just stop. Stay away from it, avoid it. That first part of the hadith, the scholars, they say that munhiyat, which means everything the Prophet discouraged, falls into two types. So things that the Prophet avoided or told you to avoid has two categories. Category A, for example, category B, for example. Because he's talking general. The first part of the hadith, ma, in Arabic, they say yafidul umum. That means it's a general term. So the Prophet said, ma nahaytukum an, whatever I tell you to avoid, whatever I prevent you from, guess what? فَجْتَنِبُوهُ. Then you avoid it. Don't take it as a game. Don't take it lightly. Avoid it. So there's two categories for the avoidance. There's one category that is a must. The first category is a must. It's called Nahi Tahrim. Nahi is prevention. Tahrim, prohibition. So you're not only told that you should take some preventive measures, but you're also told don't go in that area. So anything that will lead to that means avoiding. And the object of discussion itself to be avoided. Then the second category of the prevented things, it said nahi tanzih. Nahi tanzih. Another term for this is makruha. Makruha. Something that is detested. But although it's detested, although it's strongly disliked, if you do it, it's not a sin on you. But the first category of the prevented things, if you do that, if it's in that category, it's a sin on you. That's what's called nahi tahrim, from the word haram. Haram meaning absolute no-no, prohibited. Absolute no-no, prohibited. The nahi tanzih or makruha, the opposite, category B, avoid it, make prevention against it because it's disliked. But if you do it, then there's no sin on you. So these are the two categories of the first part of the hadith, where the Prophet said, "Ma nahaytukum anhu fajtanibu." Whatever I told you to avoid, whatever I prevented you from, stay away from it. This, most of the time, the scholars, when they talk about this issue, not everyone has the same outlook or opinion about how this should be approached. Some of them say that prohibitions, absolute no-nos, normally they are in the areas of what's considered ibadat, things of worship, things of belief. For example, making the salah, because we pray salah 5 times a day. So salah is considered ibadah. It's considered loosely in English layman terms, worship. So, if Allah, and indeed He did, prohibited us from praying, making salat to the grave, then this type of prohibition, which will fall under the first part of this hadith, مَا نَهَيْتُكُمْ عَنْهُ فَاجْتَنِبُوهُ, whatever I told you to avoid, stay away from it, then this type of prohibition, or this type of prevention, I should say, is a prohibition. Because again, we're talking about things to avoid. One of them is a prohibition, meaning you can't do it at all. And the other one is a very stressed dislike, but if you do it, there's no sin on it. It's better for you not to do it. That's the second column, B. But A, it can never be better for you to do it. So here, for example, the first discussion when the scholars talk about this is they don't take the same course of conclusion because of different rules and principles and all of the detailed teachings, then most of them say that the prohibition, that type of prevention, is in the issues of worship, as we give the example of praying to a grave. It's worship. So the Prophet said, La tusalli ila al-kubur, which means in English, do not pray towards or to someone who's in the grave. The grave is in front of you. You cannot post up, Allahu Akbar, put your hands on your chest right over left and start praying if the grave is in front of you. Unless there's a brick wall between you and that grave, unless you're in the masjid and the grave is outside, you cannot pray to that grave. So that prevention, that avoidance, is an avoidance of something that is in category A. It is haram. You cannot do it. If you do it, it's a sin on you. Another example. The Prophet said, وَلَا تَجْلِسُوا عَلَيْهِ وَلَا تَجْلِسُوا عَلَيْهِ. Neither should you sit on top of a grave. Neither should you sit on top of a grave. So the sitting on top of the grave because it's in the same hadith with praying to the grave, is also considered a type of worship, because you are giving the respect, you are giving the right of the deceased in his grave his right. Some might say, wow, even the deceased have rights and respect. Yes, they do in Islam. So this is an example of the prohibition here. When you talk about something that you avoid, this avoidance is not something highly detested. No, this is something that is prohibited. As prohibited, you will get a sin if you do it. Highly detested, you won't get a sin, but it may be better for you to leave it. It may be better for you to leave it. So this first part of the hadith, the Prophet, he mentioned, مَا نَهَيْتُكُمْ عَنْهُ فَجِتَنِبُوا. Whatever I have told you to avoid, whatever I prevent you from, stay away from it. Again, it's been divided into two categories. Either what he prevents you from, or tells you to avoid, is prohibited. Nahi tahrim, it is a prohibition. This is a prevented thing because it is a prohibition. Sacred. Haram, you cannot do it. It's not your business to do or go in that area. And the second column B, Nahi tanzih, something that you have been prevented from for your own good. But if you do it, there's no sin on you. But it's disliked, highly detested. An example of column B, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, for the person to an akhufa thawbahu wa sha'rahu fi salat, that the person, he has prevented you or told you to avoid rolling up your clothes and rolling up the hair, like putting the hair and plaits to pray in. And this is particularly the second part for the men. As for the ladies, then it's been an exception for them that they can roll their hair up, tie it up, and pray. But for the men, because some men had long hair back in that time, it is prohibited. Prohibited to have the hair tied in the back like this, like a ponytail, and pray. The Prophet also mentioned that the devil sits on the back of a person's hair tied like that while he's praying. But this exception is for the women. They can pray with their hair braided or like this, rolled, if we say like this, twisted, if we say like this. But the rolling of the garment Men roll their sleeves up. Some men, they roll their pants up, trying to avoid the opposite, which the Prophet told them not to drag their pants, so they try to roll the pants up. Shouldn't do that in the salah. This because it's customary. The first one we said, the first type of prevention is a prohibition that's in the issues of worship. And it's a technical issue to determine what's worship and what's not. But someone tying up their hair, someone rolling the garment is just a customary thing. It has nothing to do with the direct issue of making salat or fasting or like this. So this, many scholars say, is customary, and therefore the Prophet saying not to do it, it's only highly disliked. Because the origin of prohibitions is in the issue of worship. And the origin of prevented things are the only dislike or in the customary affairs. So in this case, the rolling of the clothes, some scholars say, or the rolling of the hair, and then you go and pray like that, the Prophet said don't do it, but it's highly disliked. Because rolling the clothes and the hair is a customary thing. A lot of people do it. It's not a thing that's only privy to not doing it because you're a Muslim, and if you don't do it, Allah will give you a reward. It's not like that. Whereas salah is for the one who believes in Allah. And if he prays, he will get a reward. And if he doesn't do it, then Allah will punish him. So the point here is the first part of the hadith where the Prophet said, "Ma nahaytukum anhu fajtanibu." Whatever I told you to avoid, whatever I prevented you from, it's a general statement, but some of the scholars say that it's divided into two categories. The way that you understand staying away from something is either going to be a prohibition, meaning if you do it, it's a sin on you. And most of the time, if it's a sin on you for doing it, it's either an issue of worship or belief. And the category B, the Prophet told you not to do something, it's a customary action, then that will never be prohibited. According to some scholars, it would only be highly disliked. And they gave the example of rolling the clothing, the garment, whether pulling it, tucking it, rolling the hair, and then you pray. The Prophet said not to do it, but because this is a customary thing, it's not considered worship. The rolling of the clothes and the putting the hair in the ponytail, then it's from the things that are disliked. Although the Prophet, in the hadith, you will hear to say the Prophet prevented. But this prevented doesn't mean if you do it, it's a prohibition. Because that is a custom, where the other thing is an act of worship. Another example they give when they talk about the difference between a prevented thing that's prohibited and the prevented thing that is highly disliked. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, "La tashrabanna ahadukum qa'iman," in the Sahih of Imam Muslim. He emphasized, do not let any one of you drink while standing up. Again, the scholars, they differ about these things. Some of them have this outlook because of a set of goals, principles, and teachings, and another one has this one. Okay, so drinking automatically, what is drinking? And we talked about either something being on the side of worship and the belief system, or something being a custom or a thing that people normally do. So drinking, is it considered worship or a custom? Custom. Everybody drinks. And we said that the customary things, they are okay by default. They're okay by default. As in the religion, everything is okay, believe it or not, until Allah says it's not okay. That's the customary things. The way that you live, the way that you deal, your daily dealings and so forth. Civil life. But the issues of worship, the salah, praying, making supplication, dua, asking Allah, the issues of fasting in Ramadan, the issue of paying charity, issue of making the pilgrimage, the issue of praying the funeral prayer, the janais, all of this considered worship, then you can't do that unless there's something that tells you to do it and how to do it. So if it's worship, there has to be a legislation for you to do it. You can't say, well, I want to worship, so you just start doing something. Nope. It has to be a verse, or 2, or 3, or 4, or how many verses. There has to be some legislation that came down for worship. In the Quran, has to be something. Or the Prophet himself mentioned something or did something, and it's clearly considered something that's pleasing to Allah, it's considered worship, then that's what makes something worship. That you have a text, and it's something that Allah and His Messenger command you to do. So the worship cannot be legitimized until there's a text. So all worships are banned until Allah sends something to tell you to worship and how. But the customary acts is the opposite. All customary things are okay until there's a text to tell you not to do it. So that's why the scholars divided this thing down the middle. Things that the Prophet told you to avoid. Things that the Prophet told you that are preventive. They're either prohibition, meaning it's something on the side of worship or belief, or they are highly disliked because they're customary. So this hadith where the Prophet said, let not any one of you stand while drinking. This is why some scholars say it's not a prohibition to stand and drink. Why? Because the customary things, most scholars say, when the Prophet told you don't, it doesn't mean that it's a sin. Doesn't mean that it's prohibited. Doesn't mean in Arabic as we say it's haram. It means it's highly disliked. You shouldn't do it, but if you do it, okay. So customary, drinking is one of them. And this is why Imam An-Nawawi said that the drinking standing is makruh. And we found the Prophet saying that in Sahih Muslim. But in another narration, we found him standing drinking the water from the well of Zamzam in Mecca while he was standing. So this is another indication that something is not a prohibition. Because the Prophet wouldn't tell you something not to do, and then he's going to do it himself. No. If he tells you not to do it and it's a prohibition, he's going to stay away from it firstly. So you have two categories of the prevented things. Either it's prohibited along the side of worship or belief, or it's highly detested from customary issues, and drinking was one of them. Another one, the Prophet ﷺ said, Nahi Rasulullah sallam an al-akali muttaqi'an. This hadith is authentic. You can find the real Salihin. You can find it in the books that are authentic. So the Prophet prohibited the people from eating while reclining. But this prohibition, it said the Prophet didn't like you to do it. Prophet told you not to do it. Nahi, he prevented you, meaning it's highly disliked. Because he told you not to do it, but again, there's narration where he was reclining, eating. If it was a prohibition, he wouldn't have told you not to do it and you found him doing it. And what is eating? Is it worship, belief, or customary? Customary. This is how the scholars determine if he told you not to do something, is it prohibited? Keep that door shut, or it's just any caution. Don't do it, it may be better for you. The scholars, they also mentioned about this, the question, which one of them are greater? And that's in reference to the second part of the hadith. As the first part, the Prophet said, مَا نَهَيْتُكُمْ عَنْهُ فَجِتَنِبُوا. Whatever I've told you to stay away from, avoid it. And some scholars say this is just like the statement of Allah in the Quran. He said, وَمَا أَتَاكُمُ الرَّسُولُ فَخَذُوهُ. Whatever the Prophet gives you, you take it. Does it make a difference if it's an obligation? Does it make a difference if it's highly recommended? Does it make a difference if it's, extra credit? Take it. because it's for your benefit. You can't go wrong. Some people will argue, well, I don't have to do it because it's not an obligation. It's only recommended. But did the Prophet do it? Did he encourage us to do it? Did he give it to you as an act or an injunction? Then that means you should do it. Some people never pray extra salat. They only pray the 5 salat. What's considered extra, we call it sunnah. They never pray it. If they never pray that and they pray their 5, Allah has guaranteed them to go to paradise. But guess what? If they have some shortcomings in that salat, because they were praying but their mind was on their pizza left in the microwave. They were praying but their mind was on the job. Oh, I got to get back to the job. They were praying, but their mind was on, oh man, I left my cheesecake on the table and my husband just went home. Mentally, physically, spiritually, you've been negligent in salah. Because you pray to Allah, your mind, your heart, your body, your soul, everything is devoted to Allah at that time. Everything of the worldly life should be behind you as much as possible. So that person who's praying 5 salat, he's guaranteed the paradise. He's guaranteed to go to heaven. But if he's praying with examples like this, he's going to need the extra salat so they can be patchwork, so to speak. It can make up for the blunders and the deficit and the salat that every Muslim has to pray. So you see the Prophet ﷺ, and he's telling you, you see Allah telling you, whatever the messenger give you, take it. That's the second part of this hadith. As the verse starts with, what the messenger gives you, take it. وَمَا نَهَاكُمْ عَنْهُ فَانْتَهُ. And whatever he told you to stay away from it. So Allah revealed the verse, whatever the messenger give you, take it. Whatever he told you to leave alone, leave it alone. Then the Prophet, he explained this and he put, whatever I tell you and prevent you from, leave it alone first. And you can see one of them can be greater than the other. And you can argue that. Because Allah revealed taking what he gave you first. But when the Prophet spoke, and he only speaks from revelation, he mentioned avoiding what he prohibited you or prevented you from first. So thus, the second part of the hadith, he said, وَمَا أَمَرْتُكُمْ بِهِ فَاتُّوا مِنْهُ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. And whatever I told you to do as much of it as you're able. Whatever I told you to do as much of it as you are able. So the first part, whatever I told you to stay away from, whatever I prevented you from, then avoid it. And that means 2 things. What's prohibited outright, you can't do it, no, or it's highly recommended to leave it alone. It's better for you to leave them both, because the Prophet mentioned generally. And whatever I told you to do, whatever I command you to do as much of it as you're able. That second part of the hadith, the scholars, they say this shows that the obligation in Islam to do something is built and based upon istita'i. Istita'i means your ability. Like we say, an able verb. Can you give me that book? But if his body has breath, he's alive, then yes. May you give me that book? Would you give me that book? Now that's a determination. But can, you say as an able verb. So here, ability. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, he mentioned similarly in the Quran these issues. لا يخلف الله نفسا لا يكلف الله, I pronounced it wrong. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. لا يكلف. يكلف means to put a responsibility on you, something heavy. So Allah said, لا يكلف الله نفسا. Allah doesn't give anyone something to do, a responsibility, إلا وسعها, except he or she can carry it out. Even though as humans sometimes we feel and we might be a little bit overwhelmed, but guess what? How many times we felt that and we pushed through and then we say, whoo, I did it. But you didn't think you can do it. So anything Allah has commanded you to do, guess what? He already knew and He knows now while you're going through a struggle to achieve it, you can achieve it. But it's based on that ability. That's why Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, He also mentioned the Quran to prove this point. وَمَا يَجْعَلَ فِي دِينٍ مِنْ حَرَجٍ. Allah said, and we have not made in the religion anything to be a difficulty for you. Meaning, if you don't have the ability, then you're off the hook. Although in general Allah told you to do something. If you don't have the ability, you're off the hook. That's why the man, when he had hemorrhoids, for those who had hemorrhoids before, they know it's very painful. وَأَنَا وَاحِدْ مِنْهُمْ. And I'm one of those people. I had it before. Have you crying, almost ready for surgery. Can't sit down, can't lay down. Subhanallah. Don't want to eat because you got to go to the bathroom. Crucial. A man had that in the time of the Prophet. His name was Imran ibn Hussein. Imran ibn Hussein. So he came to the Prophet, Imran ibn Hussein, and he said to the Prophet, O Messenger of Allah, tell me how the one who's sick, who has an ailment, something is wrong with him, how should he pray? Because the origin of the prayer is to start standing up. In normal circumstances, وَقُومُوا لِلَّهِ قَانِتِينَ, and stand before Allah in devotion, Allah has said, meaning in salah. So the Prophet told that man, who obviously couldn't stand, because when you have a hemorrhoids, excessive standing aggravates it, makes it painful. Sometimes sitting is better, but sometimes sitting is just as bad as standing, so you have to lie. And sometimes when you can lie on your back, you might have to lie on your side. And that's just what the Prophet told the man about praying. It says, Sallu qa'iman. Start off praying standing. Begin your prayer in the standing position. فَإِلَّمْ تَسْتَطِعْ. But if you don't have the ability, qa'idan, then you sit down and pray. And most of the scholars explain your first level of sitting is on the floor. That's if it's easy for you. Some people it's not. He has a bad leg. Don't make him sit on the floor. I hear sunnah. You should sit on the floor. Let him sit on the sofa. Let him sit in a chair. Person broke their arm or has a problem with their arm. Don't make them sit on the floor. Brothers, the sunnah to start in the chair first. Can you sit on the floor? Brothers, the sunnah to start on the floor first. Can you sit on the floor? Let him sit up high. It's easy. There's going to be more of a trial maybe for him to get up with the cast on his arm or something wrong with his arm. Prophet told him, if you cannot pray standing, pray sitting. Then he didn't stop there. He said, and if you can't pray sitting, فَعَلَى جَنْبِهِ, then pray lying on your side. And there's another narration, as this one is in the Sahih of Muslim. There's another one in the Sahih of Imam al-Nasa'i, where Sheikh bin Baz said, وَإِسْنَادُهُ جَيْدٌ, that the chain of transmission is good. The Prophet said, فَالْمُسْتَلْقِيًا عَلَى ظَهْرِهِ, pray lying if you can on your side, flat on your back. Why? Because the issue of ability. So this the second part of this hadith. Prophet mentioned in the beginning, مَنْ هَيْتُكُمْ عَنْهُ فَجْتَنِبُوهُ, whatever I prevented you, whatever I told you, don't do, stay away from it. Either that's going to be flat out prohibition, haram. If you do it, there's a sin on you, stay away from it totally. The door is closed. Or if you do it, there's no sin on you, but it's recommended, highly recommended for you to leave it, because there's a benefit in you leaving it. And then you have, and whatever the Prophet told you to do, do as much of it as you're able. And some scholars say this part of the hadith refers to the obligation of things. Refers to that which is far'u wajib. Because you can't leave those things. That's why the Prophet said, do as much of it as you're able. Meaning, when you have the ability, you have to do it. إِذْ لَمْ تَكُنْ عَاجِزْ فَعَلَيْكُمْ بِذَاكَ. Except if you are incapable, you have no excuse with Allah. Only when you're incapable, then you have an excuse with Allah. Yes. The second part of the hadith, he said, وَأَحْلَكَ الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ وَأَحْلَكَ الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ. And indeed, those people that came before you, they were destroyed. لِكَثْرُ الْمَسَائِلِ وَاخْتِلَافِ عَلَى أَنْبِيَائِهِمْ. Because of asking so many questions and going against their prophets. If you take just the first part of the hadith about avoiding, those people who say, and then we'll come back to this latter part of the hadith, those people that say musical instruments. Give me a musical instrument. Quickly, somebody said the flute. Isa. And tonight, no matter, I'm sleeping. Give me a musical instrument. Huh? A guitar? Electric or non-electric? Electric. What about non-electric? Musical instrument? You have electric. You plug to the amplifier. I know, we used to have them in the church. Guys used to be in there jamming. You have the kind the cowboys play. No amplifier. Give me a musical instrument. Drums. The point here is that the first part of the hadith, whatever I told you to prevent, to avoid, stay away from it, this also includes those things that are, it can either be this way or that way. You avoid it. We learned that from the other hadith, in the 40 hadith of Imam An-Nawawi, where Prophet ﷺ said, on the authority of Nu'man ibn Bashir, Prophet ﷺ, he said, إِنَّ الْحَلَالَ بَيِّنْ وَإِنَّ الْحَرَامَ بَيِّنْ وَبَيْنَهُمَا أَمْرٌ مُشْتَبِهَاتٌ. Verily, what you can do. Remember, we're talking about this with this hadith. What you can do, وَمَا أَمَرْتُكُمْ بِهِ فَأْتُوا مِنْهُ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. Whatever I command you to do much of it as you can. This is the halal. This is the commandments. Do it. وَمَا نَهَيْتُكُمْ عَنْ, the prohibition, the haram. So in this other hadith, the Prophet said, إِنَّ الْحَلَالَ الْبَيِّنْ وَإِنَّ الْحَرَامَ بَيِّنْ. Allah made clear what you can do and what you can't do. And they say the muharramat qalilan, the things that you can't do in the religion, or the minority. Munhiyat yani qalilun, the things that you can't do, or the minority. We think it's the opposite. Islam is a don't do religion because we don't have the knowledge. We're lacking big time. Because of our ignorance of the religion and its real fashion. And the things that you can do, boatloads of it. Why? Because the prohibitions are in the things, as the scholars say, that you don't need. Istaqni an. An-nafsa yastaqni an al-haram. The things that Allah told you to leave, you don't need them. The things that Allah told you can do, you need them. You can't live without them. Food, halal or haram? Halal. Drink, halal or haram? Marriage, halal or haram? Fun, halal or haram? Huh? Fun. Amusement. Playing. Joy, halal. Clothes, halal or haram? Traveling, halal al-haram. Looking at things, halal al-haram. We can go on and on and on. Because you need them in the life. They're part of the life. So they say the haram things are the minority. And there are the things that you don't need. The body, the human, don't need them. Khamr. Do you need intoxicants, whiskeys and liquors naturally? No. Illegal intercourse, fornication, adultery. Do you need to do that? No. Fighting, killing. Can we live without that? Yeah. So all of the things that are prohibitions, they're the minority in the religion, and they're the things that really we can do without by default. That's why Allah made them prohibited. And they have a little bit of good and a lot of bad in them. Whereas the things that the Prophet told us to do, as much of them as we can, that Allah said to do, that are okay, then they have total good in them and no bad in them. The music is one of them. Al-Tabaraka wa Ta'ala mentioned in Surah Luqman, number 31. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentioned, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَتَّخِذُ مِنْ وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَشْتَرِي لَحْوَ الْحَدِيثِ. Naam. And from amongst mankind, some that purchase lahwa al-hadith. This term in Arabic, lahwa, means it's really empty. It's vain. It really doesn't have a real benefit or purpose behind it for real. Hadith means statements. So you're talking about, like you say, just wasting time. Just hanging out. This is lahwa. And then hadith is what you say. Spoken word, rap, singing, whatever you want to translate it. So Allah said, from amongst some people, meaning everybody won't be doing it, said people will purchase this vain speech, لِيُضِلَّ عَنْ سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ, to take the people away from what Allah wants them to do, to take them away from the right course. This verse was revealed about the people in Yemen, because they used to pay the singers and the dancers to dance and sing for them. But some contemporary scholars say it fits into the category of buying CDs. When we used to have cassette tapes, we used to have 8-track tapes, because you're purchasing that same thing. It's just already packaged, pre-recorded, including concert tickets to see, the band live and whatever, Stevie Wonder and all them old fools. Allahumma salli. So the point is that if Allah said they'll use it, it's vain. Anything vain is prohibited. You have to have a real need for it in this life, and it has to be something that will not take you away from being conscious of what Allah expects from you. If it's something designed to take you from that, automatically it's in the category, the first one we said, is haram, it's prohibited. Allah said, بِغَيْرِ ilm, without knowledge. That's the next part of the verse. The opposite of knowledge is ignorance. Ignorance is prohibited. We get تَكِذَهَا هُزُوًا, and it's to make a mockery of the religion. That's the fourth thing. Then Allah said, أُولَٰئِكَ لَهُمْ عَذَابٌ مُهِينٌ. These people that will be punished with a humiliating punishment. The fifth thing. All of those show that this type of singing and music is prohibited. And companions, they will ask about this. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, he said, if this verse doesn't mean singing and instruments together, he said, then I don't know what it means. Meaning, in other words, this is the meaning of this verse. There's a hadith in the Sahih Bukhari, authentic hadith, where the Prophet, he said, people will come later on, meaning after he dies, like now, from the Muslims. Yastahilluna, they will seek to make something okay. If you take that part of the word of the Prophet, how can something be okay and you seek to make it okay? If it's okay, you won't have to seek to try to make it okay, huh? You don't need to justify something that's already justified. He said they will try to justify. Al-Harir? La. They will try to justify, Naam Allah, having boyfriend and girlfriend, dating. How many of the Muslim sites you see now, dating site? What is this? There's no dating in Islam. We got Muslim dating. A'udhu billah. Muslim singles. Following the way of the Jews and the Christians. He said wearing Allah, silk. Wearing silk meaning for men. For women you can wear it. But the Prophet prohibited this for the men. Can't wear silk. So he mentioned boyfriend, girlfriend, they will seek to make it okay. By giving it another name. By making it something, undercover, or, trying to switch it around to make it seem like that's not what it is. But really, it's still an illegal intercourse, fornication, and adultery. That's just my friend we just studied together. But they going home every night. That's a lot of studying, ain't it? Jack and Jill went up the hill. What you think they went with that pail? Subhanallah. Wasn't fetching no water. Don't you believe that? The silk, Prophet said the man going to try to make it halal, which means haram for men. You can't wear silk. Wal khamr, illegal to drink wines, beer, whiskey. Muslims have all kind of names. No, this is not, liquor. This is a herbal drink. It's only 2%. While the Prophet mentioned any percentage of an intoxicating thing is an intoxication. 1%, 1.5, 2, 3%. Don't make a difference. If it's in it, the Muslim can't drink it. And then the last thing the Prophet said was ma'azif. Singing and musical instruments. Clear hadith in Bukhari. You don't get no better than that hadith in Bukhari. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, he said, al-ma'azib yanbitu nifaq fi qalbi. He said music, it builds hypocrisy in the heart of the person. Wal-Quran yanbitu iman fil qalbi. And that the Quran, it builds strength physically and spiritually and belief and wanting to obey Allah in the heart of a person. Some people, wallahi, they say, well, the lyrics are good. It's okay. What's wrong with it? They even say that for the children. It's just children listening. It's okay. But how can a child decipher between what's good lyrics and what's bad lyrics all the time? But when you listen to the Quran, when you listen to Allah's speech, the wording is always going to be good for your soul. That's why they said it builds hypocrisy. The music, the instruments, the singing, all of it. Even if you take the instruments away, just singing. They said it builds hypocrisy. Why? Because it makes you not want to listen to the Quran. It makes you not want to listen to what your Lord is saying, the speech of your Creator. It makes you not want to make the salah. You'll listen all day and sing that favorite thing and won't make not one salah. Because in the verse it said, to take you away, Allah said, from the path of Allah. This is what it's designed to do. Amazing. How many of them songs, the girl was someone you didn't even know. You put on that favorite song, man, subhanallah, you was in trouble. Swoon to the moon. Because you got the favorite tune. Na'udhu billah. Lights out. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. This is a reality. Even you look at the Muslims today on the YouTube, they'd rather listen to anything other than Quran. And they got a law name, prophet name, but they got a flute behind it. Even to the fact the man is going to give a religious talk, and in the background they got the flute playing and real low, like just like the non-Muslim. This is how horrible it is. You will find yourself more spiritual the more you listen to the Quran. Less uptight the more you listen to Quran. And you should be trying to listen to understand. And even if you can't understand Arabic, play the Arabic with the English translation. They have it. Let him read the verse of Allah in Arabic so you can hear how it sounds. It's soothing to the heart, soothing to the body. And then you get the translation so you can have a comprehension. That's what we advise the people who don't know Arabic. Listen to the Arabic is good. But listen to the Arabic English too, because you have to know what it is that Allah intends for you. The more you study Arabic, the more you listen to the Quran in Arabic alone, you'll be able to listen to that and gain some type of benefit. But until then, Arabic and English. Because the purpose of the Quran is not just to recite and to hear a melody. That's part of it. But it's to follow, to use it as a manual, that it will be effective in the life of the believer. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ, he said, وَمَا أَمَرْتُكُمْ بِهِ فَاتُّوا مِنْهُ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. So whatever I have given you, do as much of it as you can. He said, because indeed, the people that came before you, أَحْلَكَ الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ, they were destroyed. Before he mentioned this, he mentioned what? The prohibited things. It destroyed the people, the sins. It destroyed them. Even the things that are disliked. You can do it and become so engrossed in it, it becomes haram. That's why the Prophet told you in general, because he knows something could be disliked, but you do it so much, it becomes a danger for you. Then it becomes on the other side haram. There was people before you that were destroyed, talking about the other nations. From Bani Israel, children of Israel, the other people, the Ad, the Thamud, the people of Moses, Fir'aun, those people, Pharaoh, Haman, Qarnoon, Naam, all of these, they were destroyed, punished by Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. Because of Masail, Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala mentioned in the 5th surah, Ma'idah, لا تسألوا عن أشياء إن تبد لكم تصدوا. This verse was revealed, of course, while the Prophet was alive. And it's similar to this hadith. Scholars, they mention. Prophet said, and kathrat al-masail. Kathra means a lot. Masail means things you want to ask about. This is one of the reasons the people of the past was destroyed. Asking questions. But there's some misconceptions about this. That's why the scholars, they clarified it. And that is, just as this verse was revealed, because people were asked about things that Allah had not revealed yet, Allah told the Prophet, telling them not to ask. Because maybe you will ask about something, then Allah will send down a verse concerning that thing, and it will be too much for you to bear. And we understand this happened with the Jews. To the point they made things prohibited on their own selves. Allah said, كل الطعام كانت حلو لبني إسرائيل إلا ما حرم إسرائيل على نفسه من قبل أن تنزل التوراة. Allah said, in everything we have made okay for the people of Israel. This includes those people that call themselves Jewish. Allah made everything at their dispense. As we said again, this is the origin. Most things are okay in Islam, and the things that are not okay are the mana. Allah said everything was made okay for them, the people of Israel, Bani Israel, except that which they made haram on themselves. Meaning, they made things, prohibition, we can't do, no, we're not going to do, like this. And this is before Allah sent down the Torah. Meaning, they were asking, and making things prohibited, and then Allah had to send down the revelation. It's the same thing the Muslims were doing. And we do it today. But the difference is the Quran stopped coming down. Back then the Quran hadn't stopped coming down. So if somebody asked something that was never asked before amongst the Prophet and his companions, it's not in the Quran that was revealed, as Quran was revealed in stages. So what is already written down, recorded, you don't find that question being asked. In the books of people's history books and the scholars of the Jews and Christians and now the Muslims, nobody wrote anything like this. You ask. Then Allah send down, because sometimes Allah will send down something based on what people were doing, what they were asked. Now He gives it to you and you can't keep that responsibility. And this is why Moses told Prophet Muhammad, go back, ask Allah to give you less than what He gave you as a responsibility. Because my nation was given less than that and they failed. Why? Because they kept asking and asking, and every time Allah answered their call, they couldn't fulfill the responsibility. This is the meaning of وَكَثْرَةُ الْمَسَائِلِ, asking. As for that, the scholars say, which is in the Quran, as Quran is complete and no other Quran coming, unless you're Shia, some disbeliever making up your own Quran. The Quran to Muhammad is complete. If it's something you need to ask about their Quran, something you need to ask about something the Prophet said, then they said, la bas, there's no problem in asking that. Rather, it's an obligation, because you won't know unless you ask. But as it relates to things that have never taken place before, then some of our pious predecessors, they used to tell the people that when they were asked something no one ever asked before, like who created Allah. Shaitan whispered to somebody before and he said that, who created Allah? Can you imagine? You can't even comprehend things that are much more significant in life. You want to ask something that insignificant, who created Allah, like He said created things. When He created everything, no one created Him. He's the first, the last, the beginning, the end. Someone say, if I was living on the moon, for example, would I have to make salah? Nobody never asked that question, for example. This is an example of asking too many questions. You're asking questions that are not related to anything no one has ever asked before. Neither does it have any relevance to anything that someone needs to ask. But in your daily lives, you need to ask for something in the Quran you don't understand. Allah said, فَاسْأُلْ أَهْلِ الذِّكْرِ كُنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Ask the people of knowledge if you don't know. Whoever has any knowledge, then he has the obligation to give back. And the only way he can give back as it relates to questions someone has to ask. وَاخْتِلَافَ الْأَنْبِيَائِهِمْ. And they used to oppose their prophets, he mentioned. Worse than that, Allah said, وَقَتَلَهُمُ الْأَنْبِيَاءِ بِغَيْرِ حَقٍّ. And they killed some of their prophets, and Allah didn't give them the right to do so. Can you imagine? You kill a prophet, man? You have to be a destroyed nation. You kill a prophet. A righteous man, you kill him, you in trouble. But a prophet? SubhanAllah. It's serious. That's a serious evil people and an evil place, and they morally, physically, spiritually, they are destroyed before they even become destroyed. No respect for the prophet. And what do you think they're going to respect the creator who sent the prophet? No way. Destroyed. This, we will talk about the issue of singing. The likes of, as we wind down, Yusuf al-Qaradawi, famous scholar, Egyptian, still alive, living in Qatar, one of the Gulf states, the Gulf countries, has a famous book, Halal wal Haram fil Islam. When they became Muslim 28 years ago, this book was in English. Everyone had it in their house on the shelf like it was a Quran, like the Christians have a Bible. The halal and the haram in Islam. You open that book, he would tell you what's halal, what's haram, what's halal, what's haram. And most of the stuff that was haram, he found the way to tell you it's really halal. So really the book just told you about everything that you can do. And it was a bogus book, by the way, that led many of the Muslims astray. This is one of the man in this book, this man, he said that music is okay. And they start with the beating of the duff. The duff is like the tambourine in the church, except it doesn't have the little chimes around the end. It's just a leather skin that's pulled over the frame, the wood, and you beat it. If you take those little jingle bells from off it, the little cymbal things, then this is called duff. But the first thing we say is that this is restricted, the beating of this. It is not that you can just beat that anytime. This is an exceptional piece of equipment or instrument, if you will, that the Muslims can beat. No, it's prohibited. Except for the days of Eid, after Ramadan, and after the Hajj, and women when they have the wedding party. For them, not for the men. Some people translate the duff in English to the drum. So I remember we were in New Jersey, in the park, we had the big bongos, the red one, who beat the thing. We beating the drum, and the book was sunnah, you can beat it. Pardon. Not permissible. Because that's an exception. Outside the exception, it becomes haram. Because it's a musical instrument. Some even say it's not even the custom of the Arabs, it came from the Persians. And we'll find some that say it's not an issue of the religion, it's customary. As we mentioned before, what? If it's customary, then it's okay by default until something makes it prohibited. But if it's the religion, it's part of creed or worship, then you have to have a text to say it's okay. So is not Eid part of the creed and the worship? Yeah. Is not the marriage ceremony customary? Yeah. So for that custom it's okay. And for those days of worship it's okay. But guess what? That's the exception. You don't find the Muslim just beating the duff and no. Like the brothers try to take this argument and say we can listen to rap. Are you serious? I can listen to cool, what's his name? LL Cool J. He said because the Sahaba used to beat the duff on the ear. Astaghfirullah. How? I used to listen to Snoop Doggy Dogg. Sahaba used to... Are you serious? They got out of their mind. Can't do it. And Imam al-Shafi'i, one of the great scholars, he migrated from Iraq, he said, because the people were replacing the Quran with music. This was way in his time. They like to say anashid. You could call it what you want, any name. It's all the same. Prophet says haram. Except you traveling, you building a house, or you getting ready to fight, you ain't supposed to be saying all of that stuff they want to put on the radio, on the YouTube, all in the car, all in the house, subhanAllah. Even some people, they play it on their phones in the masjid. You ain't believe it. Prohibited. Prohibited. So Yusuf al-Qaradawi, Imam al-Ghazali and some of the other scholars from Egypt, Azhar, they just follow their desires, man. We got ayat, got the hadith in Bukhari, we got the hadith in al-Tabarani, we have the hadith and all of these books of the Sunnah. How are you going to make music okay? How are you going to make singing okay if it ain't no instruments just anytime you get ready? No. Can't do it. And it's killing the Muslims. Ask the Muslim to show you how to pray, he can't do it. Been Muslim 25, 30 years. But I bet you ask him what's the latest tune at the top of the charts, he can blow that thing for you. And got it in his car in the CD. A'udhu billah. Yeah. The children, the same thing. They know all of these disobedient rappers and all of these videos. The girl is lewd, just shy from nude. They know all of this. Ask them about companion, they don't have a clue. What's that? You mentioned to them, where was the prophet born? One boy said in Brooklyn. They was serious. Prophet was born in Brooklyn. Are you serious? Allah musta'an. That's the grown man. When was the prophet born? He said 800 years ago. Are you serious? These are Muslims, man. Don't even know your prophet was born. Subhanallah. It's horrible. Horrible. So this, wallahi, may Allah help us, because we're losing everything. And it's because we're not following what the Prophet he said, مَا نَهَيْتُكُمْ عَنْهُ فَجِتَنِبُوا. Whatever he told you to avoid, it's to your benefit. If it's haram, you got to do it. If it's prohibited, you got to do it. If it's highly recommended, strongly disliked, it's to your benefit to still leave it. Because Allah said, whatever He give you, take it. He give you a prohibition to stay away from, that falls in that category. Take it. Give you something He don't think you should do, that falls in the category of taking it. And He commands you something, then you definitely have to do it. And lastly, the scholars, they ask and they debate, which one is greater? Ayyuhum a'zam? To stay away from something prohibited or to follow the command? Which one do you think is the greatest thing? To follow the command that Allah give you to do something, or to avoid the thing Allah told you is prohibited? Which one?
Follow the command.
Follow the command. Somebody said follow the command.
Or stay away from the thing that Allah prohibited you.
Yeah, which one? This from the hadith. Follow what Allah prohibited you. And the Nisa, ayyuhum a'zama? Which one is the greatest? That you do a sin that Allah prohibits you, or that you obey Him? Which one holds the most weight? Asking the women. You from the women? Huh? Which one is the greatest? To stay away from the prohibition or to do the command? There's a difference of opinion as we wind it down. Scholars, they different, depend on which hadith, which verse, which way you look at it. It could be either this or that. Then there is a predominantly chosen side, but both of them are a good argument. Some of them say to fall in the prohibition. To stay away from the prohibition is better than doing the command. To stay away from the prohibition is better than doing the command. And one of the things they use to prove that is that hadith itself. Because the Prophet mentioned in a general sense, in a general way, مَا نَحَيْتُكُمْ عَنْهُ فَجْتَنِبُوا. Anything I told you to avoid, anything I prevented you from, stay away from it. They said this is a proof that this is the greater thing. To stay away from the prohibited things, because He mentioned that generally and He mentioned it first. They said also, the paradise the Prophet mentioned. وَحُفِظَ الْجَنَّةِ عَلَى الْمَكَارِهِ. The paradise is surrounded by things of temptation. There's a hadith with Prophet he mentioned that Allah created the hellfire and the paradise. Then he sent the angel Gabriel. He said, go look at what I created. Jibril looked at the paradise. He went back and he said, oh my Lord, that's a beautiful place. I imagine and I think everybody's going to want to be in there when they see it. Then Allah decorated it. Like you decorate a house. You put siding, you put fixtures, you put gutters, you put windows, you decorate it. He told Jibril, go back and look at that paradise. Go back and look at heaven. Jibril went and looked and went back to Allah. He said, oh my Lord, I'm afraid ain't nobody going to end up in there. Because he surrounded the paradise with things that are prohibited. If you stay away from those prohibited things, you enter the paradise. If you do those prohibited things, you don't enter the paradise. So some of them use that hadith to say that's greater than following the command. Others say to obey is the greater thing. The greater thing is to obey. They say because the fact that Iblis, the fact that the devil, a shaitan, Satan, was commanded to bow down to Adam. And also this bowing to Adam is not worship to Adam. Back then, bowing was not considered to Adam worship to him. But if I bow to Hassan right now, that's considered worship to him. Because Allah has prohibited that you bow down, that you prostrate before anybody, to anyone other than him. That's why the Chinese, the Asians, when they do like this, can't do it. Can't bow like that. You can't prostrate to nothing, only to Allah. But back then, their scripture, bowing was part of showing respect to that individual. Like in the story of Yusuf. So, when Allah told Iblis, the devil, prostrate to Adam out of respect, what did he do? Did he obey Allah?
No.
He didn't obey. Therefore, he lost everything in this life. Khusira fi dunya wal akhirah, and in the hereafter. Allah won't give him any reward. Nothing is accepted from him. He's cursed, wretched, outcast, and he's going to burn in hell forever because he didn't obey Allah. So some scholars, they use that to say that's the greater thing, to obey Allah. And Adam likewise, Allah told him, eat from this tree, but stay away from that one. Eat from all of this, but leave that one. He ate from the wrong thing, and guess what? Had he not repented, he would have been ruined too. The point is, whatever I prevented you from or told you to avoid, avoid it. Prohibition or something highly detested, treat it the same. Whatever I told you to do as much of it as your ability will allow. Last point in case. Brothers used to say, how are you going to come in the masjid and pray sitting down? He was just outside playing basketball for 2 hours. You should pray standing. The guy out there going through his legs, around his back, your face. Time for salat, he come in the masjid, he can't stand, he got to sit in the chair and pray. I said, man, what are you doing? You was out there hooping. You got to stand, ain't nothing wrong with you. Guess what? If he don't have the ability because he's exhausted, he can sit based upon this hadith of the Prophet. Your ability. Everything is based upon your ability. So this, we ask Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala to accept from us. We ask Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, the mighty and sublime, to increase us in knowledge, to bless us, and to forgive us for our shortcomings. We ask Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala to make us from those who avoid that which the Prophet told us to avoid, and to do whatever we can based upon our ability of the obligations, to uphold those which are the fara'id wal wajibat, that which is the command from Allah and His Messenger. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us a good understanding of the religion. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His mercy. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala rasulil kareem wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa sallama tasliman kathira walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Where's the other one? It left. You see it. It went off.
Must have died.
Man, talk the battery out the iPad. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. Yeah. Any questions? What time is it now?
1 o'clock. Should be.
Any questions?
It's after 1.
105.
107.
Yeah, right. Questions from the brothers, the sisters, the people on the speaker. Any questions?
All right. On the
We gotta remember to check that weather report too. We might end up having to stay if it's that bad. I don't know.
okay. In the situation you said about the sitting and drinking.
Yeah.
Was there an incident that made the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam tell someone to sit and drink? Was there an incident where he was it like he was in a company of people and told them to do it, or was it just something he just blotted up?
Prophet never. The question is, does Prophet ﷺ have an incident which involved him telling someone, or did he just blurt it out? Prophet never blurted anything out. Never did anything of vanity. There was always a cause and effect, or the Prophet was speaking, as we say, from revelation. Everything he did was from revelation. Allah said that in the Quran, مَا يَنْتِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَىٰ. He only speaks from revelation. He doesn't speak from his desire. So he's not going to blurt out or act out of emotion or frustration. No, it wasn't the message. And so, of course, when you go and you read the explanation of this hadith, they mention the reason behind it. And one of them is because the scholars of hadith, they mention that it's safer for you to drink while sitting. Many times you drink something standing and it goes down the wrong pipe and choking and spitting. But if you sit down, the body posture is made as such that when you drink, things will go down properly in most cases rather than trying to drink standing. Likewise, they did not drink while walking. And they didn't find them drinking and walking. Eating, yes, some narrations, but drinking, no. So because of the danger, as Sallam kana harisun alaykum al-mu'minina ra'ufur rahim, he was eager for goodness for his ummah, for the people of the Muslims. He was eager for them to have goodness, and he was the most merciful. So it was a precautionary measure, and that's why it's not prohibited, because it's only a precautionary measure. Although some scholars say from the language perspective in Arabic is prohibited, but when you look at it being a customary thing, and the Prophet saying that in strong language, but he himself drunk standing after that, then we understand that it is highly disliked. So if you have to drink standing, do it, and it's better for you to sit if you can. And this is the position of Imam An-Nawawi concerning that hadith in his explanation of Sahih Muslim. Barakallahu
I
fiqh.
apologize for the mistake. I was just trying to see it in a way that I could, relay it.
No, it's fine. No mistake. Okay.
The next one is the nasheeds with the drums. And then I see you touch on it a little bit earlier, but I got two questions on that. I know they have the I guess some kind of form of music when they're doing it, just the drum and the beats and hitting on items and stuff. And someone says this is permissible or it's halal music or whatever. I know you touched on,
Yes. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
you touched on that, but then I was seeing the incident that you spoke of when during the Eid. So was the beating of the duff, was it only done by the women, or was it done by the women and the men?
The beating of the duff was primarily done by the women on the day of Eid and during the marriage parties that they had. And some narrations mention that the women used to be on the sideline. Those who traveled with their husbands to the battles, they would be on the side because they couldn't engage in the battles. So we'll be on the side beating, to rally the morale of the men, similar to football where you do the huddle when you make some chant so that they can go forward to the enemy. As far as the men, we don't have many narrations that show that they used to beat them, but because it's a thing of Eid, then some people think it's general, but really it's for the women and the children, just as the singing. You'll find this being something done primarily by the women and the children, but there are some examples of men doing the poetry on the day of Eid as it relates to the different things regarding where they came from and nationality, but Prophet prohibited that. And for this reason, some of the people, they try to restrict it to, you can sing as long as you don't sing about nationalistic stuff. Anything that makes you better than another nationality, then that singing is prohibited. But if it's not that singing, then you can sing. And this is wrong. They're leading the people astray. Because again, Prophet allowed Aisha to watch this on the day of Eid. But in that, some scholars also mention that Aisha was not in pubit. So this shows the mercy of the Prophet to her as a young girl. But when she became an adult, you don't find any narration she was watching the young girl sing on the day of Eid. And of course, Abu Bakr came in when they were singing and said, what is this? The voice of the Sawt al-Shaitan in the house of the Prophet. He deemed it to be something that was evil. And the Prophet said, leave them, leave them. Everyone has their joy on the day of Eid. But the lyrics were not bad lyrics. The Prophet would not have listened to that. As one man in the Sahih Muslim, he was in the masjid and he was doing anashid. Anashid means he's rhyming in Arabic. And so Prophet told him, La tanshid dal, la tunshid dal, فإن المساجد لا تبنى له كما قال. He said, because the masjid is not the place that was built for that. He said, La tunshid dal. He said, don't be saying the anashid, the poetry in Arabic with lyrics or words that are not true. He's dal, like from dalin, astray. I said, stop, don't do that in the masjid. The masjid is not built for that. So this means that those young girls, and that was a grown man, by the way, in that narration. So if those young girls were saying something morally and politically incorrect, the Prophet would have had to leave, take Aisha, stop them. He didn't. So if you're going to say something, like that, then it's okay. But really it was for the children, the women, and we don't find any narration of the men doing that, except that it was from their culture. And anashid, by the way, is part of the Arabic language. Rap is something that it came about in 1979. It's not from the English language. It's something we made up culturally to make us feel good. Talk about our expressions in the inner city and so forth. But anashid is not like that. It's part of something that goes with the Arabic language itself. So people have taken that word and just said any type of singing is okay because they used to do anashid, used to say poetry in the time of the Prophet. Man, this is crazy. So you can sing Marvin Gaye and B.B. King and Barry White and all them people because they used to sing, they used to have poetry. So, and if you listen to most of those people that say you can do it, they either follow their desires. They don't even consider the hadith in Bukhari. They don't even consider the ayat and the tafsir in Kathir and the many other hadith to show that it's not permissible. They only say, as long as you're not singing about nationalism, it's okay. And that's Yusuf al-Qaradawi, Imam al-Ghazali, who died. Yusuf al-Qaradawi is still alive, which many of the scholars have refuted his falsehood in this day that we live, including our Sheikh al-Muqbil, because this is someone just following his desires. This is the same man that said a lady can lead a man in salah. Can you imagine? Yusuf al-Qaradawi, one of the people who said that the song and music is okay, instruments and singing is okay. He's one of the same ones who said in 2008 and 9 that a lady can lead the man in salah. Yeah. She wanted to give a khutbah, Jumu'ah, in front of the men in New York City and lead the salah. This man, this idiot he is, said it's okay. He's alive right now in Qatar. Yusuf al-Qaradawi. Yeah. So how can you accept something from a man like this? Clearly, he passes bogus, okay, fatwa to lead the people astray, just as Allah said, "Yudillah an sabilillah." They do it to lead from the path of Allah. It's a way that they come to make the people astray. There are people, qulubuhum shayateen, their hearts are the hearts of the devils. There are the people that the Prophet mentioned that about. Allahu musta'an. Sallallahu wa sallam wa rasulil kareem. Oh, you have one more.
In the prohibition, when we spoke about alcohol, and I thought about it in my mind about the mouthwash.
This doesn't include that. In the beginning, the people in Arabia and other places, they said coffee and tea was haram. Back in the '50s and '60s, this is what they had in their books. Coffee and tea is haram. They have some of the most well-known coffee around today. Who are they? The Arabs. You go to Dunkin' Donuts, Arabic coffee. Starbucks, Arabic coffee. McDonald's, every place. This Frappuccino and this mocha is made with their coffee. 50 years ago, they were saying that coffee and tea is haram. They're some of the most coffee, tea drinking people on the face of the earth. So this means that things have to be reevaluated. From the examples is this issue of alcohol in the mouthwash and in the perfume. This is a pharmaceutical type chemical. It has the same name as they call whiskey and wine, say alcohol. It has the same name, but it's not something that you can ingest. Now I have a friend, he's worked like 25 years in a pharmaceutical place, and they use chemical to make things for the animals and stuff. And some of the things they make is mouthwash and bug spray. And he was the one who educated me to that. And then I further did research and found that that alcohol inside of the mouthwash is not alcohol like we say whiskey, wine, not like that. But the alcohol in NyQuil is, because you can ingest that. What do you do with alcohol? NyQuil. You put it in your mouth and spit it out, or you ingest it? You ingest it. And they make you feel, oh. But the one in the mouthwash, you can't drink that. It's a poisonous substance if you drink it. Likewise, the one they put in most of the perfumes and colognes. It's not the alcohol that's like corn whiskey and no. It's not like that. But they thought that because they were misled, and now many of them in their fatwa books, so you can use that perfume and mouthwash based upon this clarity. And Allah knows best. Sallallahu wa sallam barak ala rasulih al-kareem wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa sallam tasliman kathira. Subhanaka Allahumma bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa hu astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. You guys share this or stop.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
We need to check the weather up top. Talib said it's ice up in Raleigh and Durham, huh?
Yeah, it makes it hot.